So, hey there. Welcome everybody to a new edition of the Trailblazers Cafe. I'm Nancy Fox, the Business Fox. And I started this series for professionals because we're living in unprecedented times with everything being so different, everything changing so much, and so many fantastic ideas and pathways are being paved by some fantastic professionals. And so this series is really all about life reimagined on your own terms. And I have no idea where it's going. That's why we're going to talk to some great people. And today I have a fantastic guest, Gabrielle Hartley, Esquire, although Gabrielle wears a number of very cool hats. So Gabrielle is the founder of the Better Apart Divorce Professional Certification. She's got a certification program. She's also an online mediator and a family law divorce attorney. And I can't wait to have her share her perspectives about her life and her career and her pathways and what she's paving these days. She's really a pioneer in many ways. So it's so great to have you, Gabrielle. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. It's so much fun to be here.
Yeah, isn't it fun? It's very cool. And even though we're on opposite coasts, we're going to have a fantastic conversation to share with the entire world. So the first thing I want to ask you is, what prompted you to take a very different pathway? You're not your standard issue lawyer.
Oh.
I mean, right? So what prompted you to take a very different path in your career and in your life? Have you always been sort of going to the beat of your own drum?
Well, I mean, I'd say yes and no. My parents were like hippies, right? They met in art school in the 60s, and I was born in the 70s. And, you know, I was sort of their very traditional kid, but they were such hippies that you know what I mean? So like if you put it together, and they divorced, and they had a real kumbaya kind of divorce. So they shared custody of my brother and me, and we changed houses every day. And when I went to Cornell for undergraduate, and I was a design major, so just put a pin in that. Like, so I always had this like sort of creative side. Then I went to law school, and I wound up working for this judge in divorce court. And I saw how rigidly things were done and how much conflict was stirred up. And of course, sometimes court is necessary. I mean, I am of counsel to a major litigation firm in Manhattan for a reason, but very often things can be resolved in a sensible, if not amicable way. I cringe a little at the idea of like, oh, have an amicable divorce. If you go through my website at GabrielleHartley.com, you don't see me talking about everybody being best friends, but just like a good enough divorce. And so I am a creative, right? Like I have one published book, Better Apart, The Radically Positive Way to Separate. And I'm right now in contract to do another book on skillful conflict navigation, about how to get along in general. And when I saw the way that the court process and the lawyers and the whole thing froths up problems and makes the shame blame dynamic so much worse than it needs to be, I knew that I needed to do something to help the situation, the process become better. And so when I wrote Better Apart, my vision was to be the global, or at least coast to coast, conversation changing person. I wanted to be, I kept saying I was going to be the Gloria Steinem of the positive divorce movement. And so that's pretty much what I've done. And so, I spend a lot of time talking to groups, empowering lawyers. I created the Positive Divorce Total Practice Makeover for lawyers who want to do things differently.
Wait, say that again. Say go slow. Say that again.
Go slowly.
I want all the professionals who are listening. These are really, your terminology, conversation changer, is really again. Let's put a pin in that word, because we're not just changing pathways, which we have to start with the conversation. I think that's really crucial, right? So say that again. What's the program?
So for the lawyers, it's the Total Practice Makeover. It's the Better Apart Method Total Practice Makeover. And we break down a whole different way to look at your cases. It is based on Better Apart, the book, the 5 elements: patience, respect, peace, clarity, and forgiveness, and how that all something formulated that I have called the close method, which looks at taking your case from beginning to end so that people can actually evolve and move forward, and so that their life is not about the story of their divorce, but it's about their vision for their future. And in talking about changing the conversation, I look at this as an opportunity to create a better legacy for your children. So like, as the divorce lawyer, you're not just helping the person getting divorced, but if you can help make their transition less horrible, because it's going to be kind of bad no matter what you do, less horrible, that's a good, basic standard. You're going to help them feel better and be less negative around their kids, and they're going to have better long-term outcomes.
You're just listening to the passion that you have for this. It's very clear. Because when you speak to many family law attorneys, it can be a very difficult life pathway for yourself, because you can get so jaded from it. And so you sound so passionate about this. What were some of the, obviously hearing your passion and your vision for this, for the entire experience for couples who are consciously separated, or whatever we want to call it. For yourself, what were some of the obstacles that you had to face in going a different way?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much negative self-talk that we all do, right? Like I heard Gwyneth Paltrow talking about conscious uncoupling, and I said to my husband, I said, I'm going to write the book and she's going to endorse it. Now, of course, Catherine Woodward Thomas actually wrote Conscious Uncoupling, but People magazine said to think of my book, Better Apart, as the conscious uncoupling how-to. And Gwyneth Paltrow actually endorsed it right on the cover.
I said, wow, that is that is so important, because she was really a voice. She was a voice.
She really was. You like her or you don't like her. She did something really incredible, I think. And I personally, like, not even professionally, but personally, I'm so grateful. I mean, professionally also I'm grateful, but personally, because I think it's so important for children to feel good about where they come from. And by having somebody who has that many people looking up to them call it a conscious uncoupling, that gives the listeners, the viewers, the fans permission to look at their divorce differently and in a positive light. And so, I had the negative self-narrative of, oh, could I write a book? Would I get a major book deal? Could I really get Gwyneth Paltrow's endorsement? Were my colleagues going to look at me like not a real lawyer? Was I going to still have enough business? Was I enough? Was I, savvy enough, smart enough, cool enough, young enough, pretty enough?
Am I enough?
Right. And you know what? Yeah. And so are you. And so are all your listeners. Like, we all are. You just literally need to believe it, visualize it, internalize it, and realize it. That it's like 3 steps. I actually call that the VER protocol.
And it's true, because I think lawyers are extremely proud of being the typical smart, educated, credentialed lawyer, super lawyers, blah, blah, blah. And you didn't take that path at all. Not that you're not a super, I'm not saying.
No, actually what's incredible, what's really very interesting is the lawyer who I work with, she is very credentialed, and she admired, I believe, my non-conventional credentials, because that is what I went for.
This is so important. First of all, can I just underscore for everybody listening, the words you're using. I think that people, when you hear new ways of phrasing things like conscious uncoupling and the kinds of things, the conversation changer that you are, and wearing that different hats that you do, not being just one thing, not being a lawyer, and that's it. It seems to me that when we say things with new verbiage and new ways of expressing ourselves, it alerts people, the alarm bells go off, and people start listening. And as you can hear, my dog is now playing his toy so that he can get attention. He's really innovative, isn't he?
Yeah, so disruptive.
Unbelievable, so disruptive. So I just want to say that I think these words that you're using are they're not just accidental. They're not just like, oh, they're just words. No, we stop and think, what'd she just say? And I think it's really, really important that we, if we're going to do some trailblazing, we have to do it in ways that people will sit up and take notice. We're just bombarded with information constantly. But I want you to know that you got through all of the, for me, you got through all of the noise out there, and I was really just astounded by how much you were shifting the conversation, shifting the narrative around this. And I really wanted to share this with other people, because I think that we're living in a time now where not only are we just very, everything's so unsettled, but it also opens up doorways and opportunities and perspectives that give us permission to do things newly the way you're doing them. And so I really am excited about this. So I want to know from you, like, about your book. You decided to get published by a traditional author, a publishing house.
I did. So I did it. I mean, and I'm the kind of person who like networks like crazy. Normally I just call people, who knows who, blah, 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 blah. But like, I didn't really know people in the publishing industry, right? And so, I read a bunch of books, how to get your book published. And it was really like, I just didn't know people who had done that before. And I made, a meeting or two with different people who were supposed to be experts, who both told me like, oh, you're never going to get a book deal. You don't have a platform, blah, blah, blah. But
right.
For me, when you say no, that's my starting conversation. That's like an opening for counter offers, right? And so I did get an agent. I got a lot of rejections because, I was an unknown quantity. I got an agent. That agent sort of didn't see things through. I got a new agent, and she took it all the way. And, we sold it pretty quickly. And then a couple of years later in the pandemic, she reached out to me and was like, this is the next book you need to do. And then I sold that book to a traditional publisher as well. So yeah, I feel very grateful for that experience. I know, like, if you're thinking of writing a book, if you're listening to this and you're thinking about writing a book, there are different ways to publish a book. Traditional publishing is certainly not the only way to do it. It takes a very long time. You have to do all the promotion yourself. Do not, let's put it like this, if you want to write a book, reach out to me and we can have a conversation about it. But it's, there's just
their hat that you wear, teaching lawyers how to get their books published, but
get on podcasts, the whole thing.
Oh yeah, and it's interesting also. I wanted to sort of ask you a little bit about your certification program before we run out of time, because I think you're a practitioner, you're a litigator, you're an author, you're a speaker, but you're also a teacher now and a coach. And I'm noticing this is becoming more common than it ever was before. I've been coaching now for over 20 years. And when I first started, people didn't even know what it was. So I want to ask you, what is going on with the certification? Who is it for?
Yeah.
And what, I guess, in what ways do you feel like that really opened up a pathway for you that you didn't really anticipate when you went to law school?
Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't anticipate that I was going to be teaching people to sort of think the way I think, right? So like the certification program is for people who want to be mediators. They may have done a training, they may be thinking about doing a training, but they need really the nuts and bolts, the tools of how to be a divorce mediator. So you might go to a 40-hour training elsewhere. I don't do a 40-hour training. I do a very hands-on, nuts and bolts. Here's all the things you need to know. Here's how to look at things. Here's how you do swaps, and here's how you do trades, and here's the ways to look at custody and all this sort of thing. And then, so that's in the group set. There's like a group component. And then I do one-to-ones with people. Some of them, I do business development with them. Some of them, I show them how to use different social media. We talk about how to be on a podcast, how to pitch to podcasts, how to write a book, what are the elements of a proposal. You don't just call a publisher or call an agent and just get a deal. You have to write this 60-page document, and then you have to write the book, right? And so that's a lot of work. A lot of people don't want to do that. I happen to be a glutton for punishment, right? I just landed a TED Talk. We could talk about how to do a TED Talk, and so anyway, I'm really, really excited about empowering lawyers who are a little bit, they're on the precipice of change, but they feel trapped in their conventional, traditional ways of doing things. And so
Beautiful.
I love doing that. With people getting divorced, I mostly mediate. My firm litigates. I did litigate, but I've got lawyers who are just unbelievably aggressive. And if you have to go to court, I connect you with somebody who's right for you. And sometimes people hire me for coaching or consulting, who are either with a lawyer who they feel like is maybe too combative and they want me there to sort of help them look at things differently. But anyway, so yeah, those are my hats. And yes, there are many.
You are wearing some very untraditional hats. And I just want to go back and really re-emphasize the whole purpose of your mission and your vision of all of this. So one of the things that before we wrap up, and it's been, I mean, we could go down like so many different conversation paths, which I hope we'll do, in the future. What is the one pearl of trailblazing wisdom that you would like to share with the professional community? It could be other lawyers, it could be other professionals, because you really have so much to share. One pearl.
One pearl, gosh. I mean, I've got a couple, so you could pick which one. Yeah, I would say, believe in yourself, go for it. It takes 5 years to be an overnight success. Maybe that's the pearl. 5 years to be an overnight success, and just keep going.
Well, you certainly have done that. And you also, one of the things that I want to share back with you that I heard today that I'm going to put up on my wall is, when you hear no, that's when things start to be, when you start working. It's when you hear no, that's the beginning of keep going, right? So in other words, instead of stopping at no, that's when the start button begins. So I really want to thank you for, sharing your experience and your wisdom. Just the beginning, it's just touching the surface, I know, but you have so much to bring to the table. And today we need this, especially, for professionals. We're coming out of, crazy times and a lot of confusion. I think you've shared so much great wisdom today, and I thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It's really so much fun. And I hope this won't be the first. I hope it won't be the last of our conversation. That'll be the first and more.
Absolutely. And if you want to learn more about my offerings, I'm at GabrielleHartley.com.
Thank you for sharing that. And that's where your book, say the title of your book again.
Better Apart, the radically positive way to separate.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Gabrielle.
Thank you.